we need to understand some basics about the brain. We need to understand how the brain comes up with ideas, perception, how the brain creates what it believes to be a reality. So each one of us has got a sense that we live in a world, a tangible world. I hope so. Anybody here that you're not in the world, it's like just in a different space? No, anybody? Somebody knows you're in the world. You know you're in the Zoom room at the moment, right? But let me explain and unpack it for you guys in detail so everyone understands how it works. Because it's easy to say that your reality is your mind. You need to understand, how does that work? Why is reality in my mind? Why is my own perception different to your perception? Why is my reality not the same as yours? Is my reality accurate? Is yours accurate? If mine is not accurate, when is it a good one? When is it a bad one, etc.? And how do I shift it? So if you look at how the brain works, the brain is constantly busy, constantly, even while you're sleeping, constantly busy gathering information. It's constantly picking up data. In the world we live in, everything around you on the outside of you, in essence, is nothing else but information. If you look at someone, you see a face, that face is in reality basically just information that your brain is gathering. So we need to realize how the brain gathers this information. And a lot of people think the brain sort of finds it on the outside. So let's just do a quick test. And if you've done this test already, don't cheat, but let's just do this test. I'm going to hold up my finger, and I want all of you guys to point to where you see my finger. Point to where, come on, point to where you see my finger. Point to where you see my finger. Right now, what you guys are doing, you're all pointing to the screen where you're seeing my finger. Now, you maybe just for a split second forgot what your biology teacher taught you at school, how the eye works. Who remembers how the eye actually works? Can I refresh your memories? The eye picks up light that is merely bouncing off a surface, correct? That light enters the retina, and at the back of your eye is like a screen, and it creates an upside down in reverse little image, which your brain then remasters into a visual image. That's how we see. Your ears work the same way. Your ears technically doesn't hear. What is happening is my vocal cords are merely creating airwaves, not sound. It's creating airwaves. When it hits your eardrum, the eardrum converts that pattern of wave into a sound. That's why you hear. So when I do that with my finger, technically correct, theoretically, point to where you see my finger. Come on. Point to where you see my finger. Point to where you hear my voice. Cool. So a human being has got 5 senses. We can see, we can hear, we can feel, we can smell, we can taste. The acronym we use is the VAKOG. It's visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory. These 5 senses, I want you to imagine for a moment, it's like tentacles. And what they're doing is they're picking up raw data, bringing it into the brain. And inside this thing, this head, this gray matter called the brain, it converts that into perception. It converts that into visual experience, sound experience, smell experience, everything else. Now, does your brain pick up the same information my brain picks up? No. Your brain is exposed to the same information, but it doesn't pick up the perception it creates inside here. It's not always the same. And you can experience with this. You can go to a music show. Take 5 of your friends with you. There's 6 of you, in other words. When you guys come back, some people will talk about the crowd. Some people will talk about the sound quality. Some people will talk about the dance moves. Some people would have liked the music. Some people would have hated it. For some, it would have been too soft. For others, it would have been too loud. Everybody would have had their own individual, unique experience in that time. Now, was everybody exposed to the same raw data? Yes. But our reality is not shaped only by and I'm saying only, it's not shaped only by the raw data we are exposed to. It is mostly shaped by which raw data we take in and how we perceive it. It is what we take in, how we perceive it, that creates our reality. Does that make sense? It's critical you get this, guys. It's very important. There are times in your life when someone is actually giving you a compliment and you took it as an insult. There are times in your life when someone was sarcastic, giving you an insult, and you didn't realize it and you took it as a compliment. It's not the information that's out there that creates perception. It's what you take in and what you do with it. Right now, hopefully, you are all aware of the fact that you're in a Zoom room with each other. Correct? There is a shared reality experience we all have at the moment. But if I analyze your experience, there's certain elements that no one else is experiencing, that only you are experiencing. So even though there's a shared reality, there is an individual perception. Because as I talk, your brain goes to some of your past experiences, to some of your hopes and dreams. You take what you hear, you use your own thought patterns, you analyze it, you compact it, and you allow that to create your own perception around it. Or one can say even your own unique understanding about it. And that's how the brain technically functions with raw data. So on the outside of us, there's a vast amount of raw data. The smart guys say they can even measure it. So they've come up with different numbers, and different studies have reflected different numbers, but it roughly boils down to about between 20 to 40 million bits of data that the human brain is exposed to every single second. 20 to 40 million bits of data. Now, there is no computer on this planet that can deal with that volume of data. Neither can the human brain. This is a very important point. The human brain cannot experience, focus on, absorb all of the raw data on the outside. If it did, it would overload the brain. If your brain had to think about everything that's happening around you. Now, just test this quickly. Just look around the room you're in. How many colors can you see? How many patterns can you see? How many designs can you see? How many shapes can you see? A lot. What do you have to think about all of them at the same time? When you listen, use your ears. How many sounds can you hear? You can hear my voice, but probably in the background, there's a lot of noise. What if you go into a shopping center? How many noises are there? If you go take a walk in nature, how many sounds are there? My wife mentioned earlier this morning, she loves the sea, the ocean. If you go and take a walk at the ocean, how many sounds are there? If you're in a workplace, if you're driving to work in the morning, wherever, how many sounds are there? If you had to listen and focus on to all of them, add in all the images you see. Driving to work, how many things do you see? A lot. Kinesthetic, your feeling experience. What are you feeling at the moment? Well, you're feeling a chair under your bum. You're feeling a temperature on your skin. You're feeling the clothing on your body, if you're wearing clothing. You're feeling the floor under your feet. You're feeling the glasses. Some of you guys are wearing glasses. Some of you guys got long hair and you got your hair tied up. You're feeling that. You're feeling jewelry on your fingers. You're feeling even an emotion. Your body is constantly having a kinesthetic, a feeling experience. And there's a vast amount of information that's constantly coming in. Every nerve, every sense in your body is constantly sending data to the brain. vast amounts of data. So let's take everything you see, everything you hear, everything you feel, put that all in the brain and go, oh, huge amount of information. Let's add in smell. What are you smelling? I need a bath. There's an odor in the room. Maybe you're wearing perfume. If you're if you go into a shopping center, you go into nature, how many smells are there? Gustatory, your palate. What's in your mouth at the moment? What are you tasting? Maybe last night. I don't know. We had a party last night and you're still tasting a little bit of it. Is that one? Good. Maybe you had coffee or tea, or you're drinking water. I see Lucia's having some gin in a glass. Whatever it is that what's on your palate, that's also raw data. Now, what if your brain had to focus on all of it? Would you make it? Would you survive? We would be completely bonkers. Now, how much of that data can the conscious deal with, and how much can the subconscious deal with? Because they're different. Subconscious can deal with roughly about 1 million to 2 million bits. Now, there's about 20 to 40 million out there. But the subconscious is also busy with its own thoughts, with its own images, with its own stuff. And that also utilizes a lot of bits. So it's not absorbing 1 million to 2 million bits. It can deal with 1 million to 2 million bits. But sometimes even if you close your eyes, your brain is seeing images and hearing voices, and your brain is thinking. And when we think, we have multiple voices going on inside of the brain. Nobody thinks singularly. You don't think by not having a conversation. We have internal dialogues. And very often there's 3, 4, 5 voices going on in this head while we think. You're internal schizophrenic with all those voices. No, not really. But thinking is a very complex procedure that uses a huge amount of the conscious and the subconscious functionality. So how much of that data can the conscious brain pick up? The conscious brain is extremely limited. I mentioned it earlier. It's actually quite ridiculous. On a bad day, the conscious brain can only utilize 5 bits of data a second. 5. On a good day, it can probably deal with about 9. So we call this a 7 plus minus 2 principle, that your conscious brain can actually only absorb and deal with about 7 plus minus 2 bits at a time. But it gets bombarded with 20 to 40 million. So for it to be able to survive, to function, to stay sane, to have clarity, to be able to have its own thoughts, the brain needs to filter down this vast amount of data. It needs to reduce it to a usable amount through a process of selection. The brain actually decides what it's going to let in. It has its own preferences. The main question is, how does it do that?